don't trust nobody. In Hollywood specifically, when you get there, a lot of people don't know how to say no. That's the difference between New York City and California.
This is what I look for. When I see a success, I'm looking for anything
to say that they didn't do it on their own?
Detain it, not this.
The tension between JayZ and 50 Cent has been simmering for years, but what we are watching now feels like the moment before a dam breaks. Multiple insiders say the long-whispered documentary 50 Cent has been working on is not only real, it's almost finished. A full-blown, streaming-ready exposé designed to stitch together decades of allegations, grudges, and off-the-record stories. And here's the twist. JayZ is reportedly preparing to go to court to stop it from ever seeing daylight. Not to discredit it after release, not to issue a statement, but to block it entirely. That move alone changes the temperature. This isn't a mere paternity dispute anymore, it's a fight over control of the narrative, the image, the history books of hip-hop itself. What exactly is he so determined to hide?
In the documentary, I think a lot of people thought that he was just joking around. It turns out he's not, so this is actually a real project that's being made under his G-Unit movie.
The buzz is that 50 Cent's project was initially aimed at Diddy and his legal freefall, but somewhere along the way, the camera lens swung toward JayZ, in part because of the Rhaenyra paternity saga, in part because of their tangled personal history, and in part because of what 50 Cent reportedly uncovered while digging. Multiple sources in the entertainment corridors are now claiming that the film will feature more than just Rhaenyra. According to one well-placed industry veteran, several other individuals who allege family ties to JayZ have stepped forward, ready to appear on camera. They're not hiding behind shadowy silhouettes or blurred faces, we're told. They want to tell their stories point blank. If that makes it to the final cut, it could rip the carefully curated image of JayZ as a devoted family man straight down the middle. Hidden lives, unexpected connections, the possibility of a pattern that's the kind of content a platform would market as can't look away.
He took them to some apartment building and, you know, they did what they did in there, you know, talked a little bit, had a good time party. And I guess had, you know, I can't fully talk as my mom because I'm not my mom. I'm just telling you guys what she told me. It was this, and I honestly just believe it. You know, it's just no doubt.
And then there's the Whisper Network about settlements, quiet, meticulous, and deeply strategic. People close to the matter claim that JayZ's team has, for years, moved swiftly to neutralize claims before they ever reached daylight. Payments, NDA agreements, sealed court files. A dark and deliberate operation to keep potential damage at bay. Those allegations have swirled for years without traction, but the difference now is that 50 Cent has the budget, the legal backup, and the platform to line them up on screen, one after the other, framed by court documents and eyewitness accounts. The thought of that montage alone is enough to make any crisis management consultant lose sleep. The stakes are heightened by the timing. JayZ is already facing renewed legal attention over Rhaenyra's push for a paternity test, a battle that has been blocked, redirected, and shut down repeatedly in court since the early 2010s. We've read the filings, seen the claims that his attorneys misspoke about property ownership to dodge jurisdiction, and watched the case bounce between states until the statute of limitations became a shield. The official line from his side has been silence or dismissal, but to the public, the optics are unforgiving. Combine that with his name now appearing alongside Diddy's in a lawsuit describing a disturbing after-party incident back in 2000, and we start to understand why even the hint of another scandal on a mass-market streaming service would be seen as a 5-alarm threat.
So that's just competitive energy.
Competitiveness.
You know? All right, so you and Diddy, you and Puff cool?
No, I don't really rock with him
okay,
like that.
damn, all right. I didn't know what that meant.
Okay.
All right, okay.
The personal history between JayZ and 50 Cent adds another layer of voltage. These two have circled each other for decades, trading verses, sharing stages, and occasionally locking horns. They've never been close friends. 50 Cent has said outright that theirs is a business acquaintance, nothing more. But in the past few months, his jabs have been sharper, more public, and pointed directly at JayZ's legal troubles. Deleted posts, mocking his red carpet appearances, jokes about how the allegations might derail the Super Bowl halftime show. This isn't casual trolling anymore. It's the steady drumbeat before a strike. And that strike, by all accounts, is this documentary.
But after that major documentary comes out on Diddy, then you're going to start to hear more and more about JayZ and his nefarious.
One of the more explosive rumors tied to the project is that 50 Cent has managed to secure footage and testimony not just about Rhaenyra or the alleged additional children, but about the behind-the-scenes machinery that has protected JayZ and Diddy for years. Former associates hint at closed-door meetings where settlements were hammered out, calls made to media executives to hold a story, and pressure applied to those who tried to go public. We have no confirmation from the label or from JayZ's team, But the mere possibility that such accounts could be stitched into a Netflix-ready narrative is enough to make entertainment lawyers line up for overtime. There's also talk, again, from people who claim to have been near these negotiations, that the more JayZ fights to block the film, the bigger the interest from the platform becomes. In streaming culture, nothing sells like something you weren't supposed to see. The Streisand effect looms large here. An attempt to bury the work could be the very thing that makes it a cultural event. And if those alleged new family members appear, backed by timelines, photographs, or correspondence, the story shifts from rumor to something far harder to dismiss.
JayZ got his whooped by his sister-in-law on camera. What's her name? Solange. You gotta imagine, the feds ain't step in and do nothing. The feds don't care about you getting your whooped.
We can't overlook how this collides with JayZ's long-documented alliance with Diddy. Their bond has been framed in interviews as brotherhood, strategic partnership, mutual protection. They were on the same stages, at the same parties, toasting to shared billionaire status. Now both are named in serious legal complaints, and Diddy is facing an avalanche of separate criminal charges. Public silence from JayZ on his brothers' troubles has already been mocked by 50 Cent in memes and on-air remarks, casting him as missing in action. A documentary that ties their fortunes together in a single storyline could turn that silence into something far harder to explain away. As for the alleged additional children, their involvement raises questions that go beyond gossip. If they tell consistent stories, where they were born, who their mothers are, how contact was made or avoided, it could lay the groundwork for a narrative about a decades-long pattern of concealment. Even without legal confirmation, the emotional impact of multiple people stepping forward with similar experiences could shift public perception sharply. In an era where image is currency, that's a direct hit to brand value, partnerships, and the myth of the untouchable mogul.
This morning, rap mogul JayZ is denying allegations he assaulted a 13-year-old girl alongside rapper Sean Diddy Combs. That civil lawsuit filed against Combs in October was amended Sunday to include JayZ. The accuser, identified only as Jane Doe, says she was assaulted by both men.
Insiders claim that some of these participants have been in quiet talks with media for years, but lacked the leverage or legal protection to speak. 50 Cent's team, they say, has offered both, along with a platform that promises to broadcast their words to millions. This isn't just about accusations, it's about visibility, framing, and reach. If the film packages these accounts with the right archival clips, juxtaposed against JayZ's own lyrics and public statements, the contrast alone could be devastating.
Weirdo. I don't get no what you got in your head, that neural link. You'll never outthink me. Ever.
And now, with lawyers reportedly drafting motions to halt the release, the clock is ticking. Each day that passes brings the possibility of leaks, counter-narratives, or strategic teases from 50 Cent's side to keep the story in circulation. The more aggressive the push to suppress it, the more headlines it generates, a loop that's hard to break once it starts. What happens if the very act of trying to bury the story ends up turning it into the biggest pop culture spectacle of the year? What makes this all even more combustible is the company JayZ has kept, and for decades, no one has been closer than Diddy. Their friendship, once celebrated as a model of unity and shared dominance, now risks looking like an anchor dragging both men down. It's impossible to ignore the fact that Diddy's legal world has imploded, with charges stacked so high they read like a crime anthology. The whispers say 50 Cent's upcoming film will draw a direct line between that implosion and the circles JayZ moved in. It won't have to accuse outright. All it needs to do is show the two men side by side at moments in history that now carry a darker hue.
So why does it all come to a head now? Why now? Why?
Because he's the acceptable monster at this time, like R. Kelly was the last time I sat on this couch.
So who's next?
Y'all don't see the lineup?
Yeah, we see the lineup.
The notorious white parties, once a symbol of glamour and influence, have become a recurring point in those whispers. Industry veterans have long hinted at unsettling things behind the closed gates. Attendees far too young to match the guest lists, mysterious, uninvited guests slipping in, and a security presence that seemed more focused on keeping eyes out than keeping people safe. The suggestion now is that JayZ's presence at these events could be more than just social, that his bond with Diddy positioned him at the heart of a scene now under intense scrutiny from both law enforcement and public opinion. How far does this go? And who else might be pulled into the fallout if those nights are re-examined under the harsh light of new testimony?
You see, there's no artist, let me be clear, there's no artist in this industry that's doing major numbers with these platforms that haven't sold their souls.
For decades, JayZ has operated as more than just an artist. He has cultivated himself into a symbol of mastery over the music business, a self-made mogul whose story is etched into the culture. That kind of legacy doesn't build itself, it's crafted, brick by brick, with an obsessive control over how the world sees you. When someone spends years turning themselves into a brand, every detail, from a photograph to a throwaway lyric, is filtered through the question, does this strengthen the image or chip away at it? In that context, the drive to shut down uncomfortable stories isn't just legal strategy, it's self-preservation on a psychological level. The pressures tied to that image are relentless. In the public eye, one misstep can become the headline that eclipses years of work. For someone who has positioned himself at the very peak of hip-hop's hierarchy, the fear of a permanent stain is magnified 100-fold. It's not just about embarrassment, it's about the potential collapse of an empire whose value depends on the illusion of invulnerability. The brand is worth billions, but it's built on trust. Trust from fans, from corporate partners, from the cultural gatekeepers who decide who belongs in the pantheon and who gets left behind.
Now, he, of course, is more than annoyed, would be an understatement.
Yeah.
He has a family and he has a lot to protect, including his brand. But to the extent that he's saying, hey, come after me criminally, that could be likely. Why do I say that? Because in New York, and what's alleged in this complaint is forcible compulsion. What that means in English is that it's saying that he held her down.
That's why the psychology of secrecy can run so deep. When a person has spent their life outrunning the ghosts of their past, the instinct to keep closing doors becomes second nature. Every rumor becomes a threat, every unflattering story a possible turning point. Even if the truth is benign, the simple fact that it's outside the curated narrative is enough to make it dangerous. And over time, those defensive reflexes can harden into something else entirely, a refusal to let anyone see what's behind the curtain, no matter the cost. We also have to consider the human side, the private self, stripped of the gloss. The constant need to maintain an immaculate public profile takes its toll, creating a state of vigilance that can blur the line between genuine caution and paranoia. In that headspace, blocking a documentary, silencing allegations, and outmaneuvering court demands isn't just a tactic, it's survival. It's the belief that if you keep the walls high enough, the outside world will never get close enough to tell a different story than the one you've approved.
And we may actually see one of the biggest divorces in Hollywood is because JayZ is up next to be exposed.
Viewed through that lens, the battle over this upcoming film isn't simply about specific allegations or individual events. It's the culmination of a lifetime spent guarding an identity that has become both a crown and a cage. And now, with pressure mounting from every angle, legal, personal, and public, we have to wonder whether the determination to protect the image is a sign of buried truths or just the inevitable reflex of a man who knows that even the hint of imperfection can be fatal to the empire he's built. We also have to consider the role of Beyonce in this storm. She's built an empire of her own, an image of discipline, artistry, and near impenetrable control. Yet behind the scenes, the pressure on the Carter household must be enormous. One source close to the music industry claims she has been working with a crisis management team, weighing every move, every public appearance, every word. Another insists she's torn, loyal to her husband, but deeply aware of the risks to her own legacy if this spiral continues unchecked. Could she be urging JayZ to quietly settle the paternity issue, just to close one door before another blows open? Or is she positioning herself to distance from the chaos entirely, ready to protect her brand even if it means creating space within the marriage?
What I've heard about them as a couple is that they've been living separate lives for a very long time.
There's talk of cracks in the empire, subtle shifts in their public choreography, fewer joint interviews, a calculated focus on separate projects. The last high-profile appearance together, the red carpet for their daughter's film premiere, was meant to project unity, but even that was met with online speculation. Social media picked apart their body language, the pacing of their steps, the moments they stood apart. For a couple that has turned image management into an art form, those little breaks in the pattern speak volumes. If 50 Cent's documentary threads Beyonce into the narrative, even peripherally, it could change the story entirely. Suddenly, it's not just about legal filings and hidden family members, it's about whether one of the most iconic couples in entertainment is in danger of splitting under the weight of shared scandal. That's the kind of subplot that keeps a story alive for months because it blends legal drama with personal stakes everyone can understand. Love, trust, and betrayal in the public eye.
No, this part is not alleged. JayZ and his team, they have been ducking and dodging, taking the DNA.
And then we return to the detail that won't go away, the DNA test. Reimer's campaign to get it has spanned over a decade, stalling in courtrooms, dodged with procedural arguments, bogged down in questions of jurisdiction. But legal momentum is building again, and the renewed attention from both press and this documentary could make refusal harder to justify. We've seen it before. One court order, one judge willing to take a fresh look, and suddenly the test is unavoidable. For JayZ, the stakes are enormous. One result could close the door forever, the other could rip it off the hinges. If he takes it and it clears him, the win would be loud and public, a rare chance to flip the narrative in his favor. But if it goes the other way, the fallout would be instant. Every denial, every procedural block, every lawyer's motion over the past decade would be reinterpreted as an elaborate cover-up. And that wouldn't just wound his personal life, it would hit the business, the brand deals, the cultural standing he's worked decades to secure. One test could answer everything, but is JayZ willing to take the risk?
I don't have no felonies, I'm not crazy or none of that. It's like, I just want the truth, and it's so hard to get it from the courts. And it seems like JayZ don't want to say anything, so, I don't want to see him go down for something that, you could have just got taken care of. That's it.
Which brings us to the question that now hangs over everything. If the truth comes out, will it mark the end of an icon or the beginning of a reckoning for the entire industry? Could this be the story that forces not just JayZ, but the whole upper tier of hip-hop's elite to confront a past they've kept locked away? We want to hear what you think. Is JayZ protecting himself from lies or hiding from the truth? Drop your thoughts in the comments and we'll be watching every word. Until next time, stay sharp, stay curious, and remember, in this game, nothing stays buried forever.